I mean, for me, and maybe this is advice to guys looking for a spouse. Before I was saved at 17, my idea of someone to marry was one, someone like me, and my parents drilled in my head she had to be Filipino, or some kind of Asian, because they didn't know about how they had friends that were different races and ethnicities,
Yeah,
but they
sure.
just didn't know about them, and they
Well,
understood the
I mean,
differences,
yeah.
so they thought it would be much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the second thing that colored my view was just media,
Mm-hmm.
what a woman should be, what they should look like, and it was totally unrealistic
Mm-hmm.
because media is never realistic
Yeah.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember the day after I got saved, and a few years after that, I was teaching the youth, really young kids. So I was still a youth, but I volunteered to teach at the church some of the younger kids who were like 11, 12, and they looked up to me because I was like 19, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 18, 19. And I remember going to a training at a big church. They had a training for youth workers,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a children's worker there, children's minister, who was a woman. Um, she was, not the skinny supermodel, extremely beautiful type. And I remember sitting there and listening to her show us how to share the gospel with little kids, and I was like, "Wow, this is attractive. This is
Yeah.
amazing." Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I look back a few years earlier, I would be like, no way, I can't be with someone like that. And then now my feelings, my perspective is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, if a woman like that comes into my life, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then I remember the verse, he who finds a wife finds favor from the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's how it works, God. Like, and because for the guys, we're always scared and concerned that if we find a good woman, we won't be physically attracted to them,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that is a concern because that's a big part of being a guy, and you have testosterone, and
Mm-hmm.
you have a libido and stuff, and you want to be attracted to your wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I found that God can change that too.
Yeah. Your desire follows his desire.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. I never thought that could be because I was just trained like you like what you like, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. For in a masculine perspective, that's something that every single guy I talk to
Yeah. Yeah.
that's single thinks about,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm trying to let them understand that they shouldn't worry about that
Mm-hmm.
if they're aligned with God, if they've learned to listen to Him and learn to receive from Him,
Mm-hmm.
then that part will be taken care of.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing, God. I mean, how He works things out. I mean, I'm thinking about it, and He created the world. He created us. He created our bodies. He created
Mm-hmm.
our minds. So why couldn't He do that?
Yeah.
Why couldn't He change the way we look at people
Mm-hmm.
and feel about people? Of
Yeah.
course He can.
Mm-hmm.
And so that that's part of the reason why I really believe like a person of the LGBTQ persuasion, and we've seen testimonies, we've
Mm-hmm.
heard from so many people that were part of that are now in a nuclear family with
Yeah.
children and a spouse,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just amazing. God is
Mm-hmm.
a God of miracles.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Like, this is kind of crazy, like, God. But I did the same thing. I was like, well, I can't rush this. This is
Mm-hmm.
an important thing. This is like something that will change the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, God, you gotta make sure you choose the right one for me, and I will choose them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I told him because, I really want to end with like the key thing for our viewers and listeners is that God does choose,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, you choose. And He gets up there to the pulpit and says, "Yes, God chooses your spouse." And all the God chooses people are like, "Yeah, told you." And He goes, "Wait, wait, wait, hold on, wait, just wait." God chooses the one you say "I do" to at the altar.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And so, yeah, like I want to end with that because the person that you say I do to, God goes, okay, now that's the person